There are 2-3 more concepts which we are going to see now. It comes as what? Deficit. So what is deficit, students? Deficit is what? Some shortage. And in our economic terms, deficit means nothing but what? We end up spending more and earning less. That creates a deficit, isn't it? So I am deficit of 10 rupees. That means what? Maybe I spent 30 rupees and I am having 20 rupees. So I will tell him, bro, can you please give me 10 rupees? Because I am 10 rupees deficit of that. So deficit means what? Your expenditure is more, earning is less. Are you getting this? So that is nothing but the concept of deficit. And in that, second thing which we go is nothing but what? Revenue deficit. Very simple. Now, as it is showing revenue deficit, that means what? It concerned with what? Revenue budget. So revenue deficit is nothing but simple funda I told you. Your expenditure is more, earning is less. It's equal to what? Revenue expenditure minus revenue receipt. Revenue expenditure minus revenue receipts. That means what? You're spending more and you are earning less. That is nothing but revenue receipt. Receipt means what? What you're getting, what you're earning. Expenditure means what? You're spending. That is nothing but revenue deficit. I hope you're also writing this. Yeah. Next. Third, fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit. Now I want you to think about a term known as fiscal. I always tell my students that fiscal is always nothing but what? Government. And monetary, if you are when you are reading monetary, it's nothing but related to what? RBI. Fiscal, government. So fiscal deficit is nothing but, you know that, fiscal expenditure again minus fiscal receipt, and then there is a caveat, except borrowing. Except borrowing. So government's deficit, fiscal deficit is nothing but government's expenditure minus government's receipt, except borrowing. You know that. See, government has to balance the budget. Understand this. Government can't say that, oh, I don't have 10 rupees, I will not give you. Are you getting this? Oh, all IAS officers, this month your salary will not be coming because we ended up spending more and earning less. They can't do that. They have to take the money because trust, the trust factor is there. So fiscal deficit, students, shows the health of the government or health of the economy, okay, or the health of the state finances. Are you getting this? So fiscal deficit is nothing but fiscal expenditure minus fiscal receipts. And just to little bit qualify it, so more the fiscal deficit, more is the requirement of borrowing. This is not a good sign. So more fiscal deficit, not a good sign. The fiscal deficit of India is increasing, not a good sign. The fiscal deficit of India is decreasing, great sign. We are using sound fundamentals of economics. That means our fiscal deficit is decreasing. Remember that. So always less fiscal deficit is better for the economy. More the fiscal deficit, bad for the economy. Remember this funda. So more fiscal deficit, more we have to borrow. That is nothing but what? Fiscal deficit. So we saw deficit, we saw revenue deficit, we saw fiscal deficit. Now we are going to go for fourth, capital deficit. Again same funda, capital part of the budget we saw. So it's what? Capital expenditure minus capital receipts. Capital expenditure minus capital receipts. Are you getting this? So sometimes they write very fancily, capex. So capex is nothing but this only, okay? Don't get bogged down. What is capex? We to never saw in our life and all those things, okay? Capex is nothing but what? Capital expenditure. Now the capex has been instituted. In your economic survey and all, you can see capex. So capital deficit is nothing but capital expenditure minus capital receipt. Clear? Got it? Yeah. Okay. Then we are going to go for a new concept. Shall I? I hope you have taken down. Okay, don't just sit in front of the cameras and see that. It's not Pothi and Puran which is going on. You have to take your notes, you have to revise your fundamentals. Remember that. Without pen, that means what? You are doing time pass. You have to have pen and book whenever any video you are watching. Clear? Then fifth, we are going to go for effective revenue deficit. We are going to go for effective revenue deficit. See now students, before that we have discussed what is revenue deficit. Revenue deficit is nothing but what? Revenue expenditure. You end up spending more and end up earning less. So revenue deficit was what? Revenue expenditure minus revenue receipt. But effective revenue deficit is what? Try to understand. So students, effective revenue deficit is that deficit wherein some grants which are nothing but what? Revenue expenditure, but those grants turned out to be what? Used for generation of capital assets. Are getting this? And you know that if something or the money is used for generation of assets or increase of assets, it comes in what? A good part. It comes in what? Capital part. So try to understand what is effective revenue deficit. So effective revenue deficit is nothing but revenue deficit. So effective revenue deficit is nothing but revenue deficit minus those grants that were utilized for creation of capital assets. Are you getting this? So revenue deficit minus those grants that were utilized for creation of capital assets. That is a effective revenue deficit. Are you getting this? So government is also trying to show that, see, though we have revenue deficit, but we are not so bad. Okay, some grants which we are given to, let's say, for example, state of Karnataka. So Karnataka made very amicable, apt and efficient use, and they created schools, and school is what? An asset. So revenue deficit minus those grants that were utilized for creation of capital assets. That means what? See, we know that revenue part of the budget is bad. Example, revenue means what? So let's say you have 100 rupees. For 100 rupees, if you eat all chocolates, so that is what? Revenue expenditure. For 100 rupees, let's say you bought some shares from the stock market. That is what? Capital expenditure. That means shares could give you the money back. Remember that. But always, let's say for example, if union government, I told you, if union government gives 500 crores for the state of Karnataka, and union government is entering into what? 500 crores as grants to the state of Karnataka. But Karnataka uses 400 crores for building schools. So the entire 500 crore will not go into the bad part. So the government will minus that 400 crore from its own budget, union government. Why? Because Karnataka, which got grants of 500 CR, utilized that 400 CR in a good manner. So only 100 is gone as what? Revenue. And 400 has gone for what? Utilization or what? Creation of what? Capital assets. Clear? So it reduces your what? Revenue deficit. It tells that not entire revenue expenditure was bad. So it shows government in a good light. And similarly, sixth one, effective capital expenditure. Effective capital expenditure. So what is effective capital expenditure? Similarly, first of what will come? Capital expenditure plus grants that were utilized for creation of capital assets. Creation of capital assets. That is nothing but effective capital expenditure. Okay, you got this? Just go through it once, fatafat. Then one more is remaining, primary deficit. Very important, primary deficit. Just look at it once. Hope you got it. Then effective revenue deficit minus those grants which are utilized for the creation of capital assets. Ineffective capex, grants which are used for creation of what? Capex. Now, seventh is what? Primary deficit. Go for a simple funda. Primary deficit is nothing but what? We calculate fiscal deficit minus net interest payments. Minus net interest payments. Clear? That is nothing but primary deficit. PD, net interest minus net interest payment. So what is net interest payment, students? Let's say, for example, India has given a loan to Sri Lanka. Okay, let's say for 10 CR. Sri Lanka is paying us what? Interest. It is paying us. That means what? It's a receipt. It's a revenue receipt for India. Let's say Sri Lanka is paying 1 lakh. India has taken a loan from USA, let's say of 100 CR. And India is paying an interest to USA of, let's say, 10 lakhs. So what is effective? So plus 1 we are getting, minus 10 it's going. So it becomes what? 9. Did you get it? How it becomes? So we are getting 1 from Sri Lanka. We are paying how much? 10 to USA. So what is net? Net is what? So minus 10, because minus 10 is going, and plus 1. It becomes what? Minus 10 plus 1 is what? Minus 9. Clear? So that is nothing but net interest payments. So we minus what it is going, we plus what it's coming. That is nothing but primary deficit. So these are very, 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 very important tenets of the budget. Clear? Yes. So I intended to make it for 45 minutes. I think it's going to shoot 45 minutes. And I am doing it for you. Just hope you make effective utilization of this. Okay, because nowhere they have given. It's only Insights which is doing that, to again explain you the fundamentals and concepts. Then students, when we are thinking about budget, we need to also think about a very important act, Fiscal Responsibility and Budgetary Management Act 2003. See, the name tells Fiscal Responsibility and Budgetary Management Act 2003. That means what? Fiscal. So government has a responsibility, and budget also has to be managed. And that is what they have made an act. Act means what? There are limitations, there are restrictions, there are accountability, there is responsibility, there is transparency, there is what? You have to watch it. So students, I am going ahead. I hope you got it. So students, FRBM Act, Fiscal Responsibility and Budgetary Management Act, FRBM Act 2003. This is given in your macroeconomics ka NCRT. Just go and see. Okay. So 2003. So I will not go into entire FRBM Act, but what is essential from the perspective of the budget. So FRBM Act, students, was, let's say, mooted or in 2000s by the then Finance Minister, Mr. Yashwant Sinha. Mr. Yashwant Sinha ji. So he brought in, and it took around 3 years when it became an act. Are you getting this? So FRBM Act. So students, what is FRBM Act? FRBM Act, you can read it, but why it's important? Because it says that along with the budget or along with the annual financial statement, you have to also place before the Parliament of India some documents, and they have given the list of documents. So along with the budget, yeah, great, you are speaking about, or you are, let's say, reading the budget in the Parliament, but along with that, you have to place some certain fundamental documents along with the budget, and they are what? Regulated by an act. They have the force of law, they have the force of a statute, so it's compulsory. You can't ask for extension. Oh, I will present a budget on 1st Feb, and can I submit it on 31st March? Can I submit it on September? This can't happen. You have to present it along with the budget. That is why it has being brought as a statute. Or there are other some measures which would have taken care of what? That lateness or delayedness. So that's why we need to understand the seriousness of this act. So what are these three documents? So the first document they talk about along with the budget is what? Macroeconomic framework statement. Check it. Macroeconomic framework statement. Second, medium term fiscal policy statement. Medium term fiscal policy statement. Third, fiscal policy strategy statement. So these three are to be tabled with annual financial statement, and it's compulsory. No extensions can be asked. It's compulsory. Macroeconomic framework statement, medium term fiscal policy statement, fiscal policy strategy statement. Are you getting this? So this was asked in prelims also. Which among the following documents are tabled along with annual financial statement? So they have given the list. Only one, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 3, none of this, none of the above. They keep on playing with this. It's a little bit, you have to do that ratta wala thing, but it's required. Okay, so we will not go into all of them, but we are going to go into this medium term fiscal policy statement because you will understand why. See, in no books they have given or they have explained this type of things. So you should always give gratitude to Insights IAS why they are doing this. Don't give it to me. I am doing my fundamental duty, but you should give gratitude because they have taken this initiative and they have asked me to go into these fundamentals. Okay, so medium term fiscal policy statement. So students, if you just see the beauty, can you see that? 1 second, it's back. Macroeconomics. So macroeconomic, a broader picture of the economy, framework. You require a framework to understand the things. Second, medium term. So they are concerned about what? Medium term. Okay, so short term is also there, budget. Long term is also there and medium term is also there. And third is what? Fiscal policy. What is your strategy? Tell me your strategy. If you want to become an IAS, if you want to crack UPSC in 1 year, what is your strategy? What you are doing differently, isn't it? As Shiv Khera says, winner don't do different things. Winner do the things differently. What is you who are going to do differently? What is your strategy? That is what this document is talking about. And we are here. Medium term fiscal policy statements. So students, in the medium term fiscal policy statements, what does the government has to give or what does the government has to produce? So it is basically what they have to go for 4 projections. 4 projections, or they have to project or they have to predict predictions and present it in front of the parliament. See, whenever you table anything in front of the parliament, that means what? You're tabling it in front of we the people, fully transparent. That's why you can't lie on the floor of the parliament. That's why you must have been seeing when opposition party demands, we want a white paper, we want a white paper, we want a white paper. Are you getting this? So you can't bluff in the parliament, okay? And here there is no chance. It's a, you can see that. Clear? So what are the 4 things? First, we have to produce revenue deficit as a percentage of GDP. So revenue deficit as a percentage of GDP, you have to present that figure, projection. So revenue deficit, you know how to calculate, divided by GDP, okay, GDP multiplied by 100. You get what? Revenue deficit as a percentage of GDP. And for you, you need to just understand how the GDP is calculated, which are the methods, whether it's calculated at factor cost, market cost. Yeah, I think it will take 2-3 minutes more. Yeah. Revenue deficit as a percentage of GDP. Second, we are going to go for as a percentage of GDP. As a percentage of GDP. Fiscal deficit. You know how to calculate fiscal deficit? We just did it, isn't it? Fiscal deficit divided by GDP multiplied by 100. You get the terms in what percentage? Fiscal deficit as a percentage of GDP. Third, tax revenue as a percentage of GDP. Tax revenue, or means what? Tax receipts, direct tax, indirect tax. Tax revenue as a percentage of what? GDP. You saw that. Taxes come in what? Revenue part of the budget, revenue budget. Tax revenue as a percentage of GDP. Okay. And fourth, I have to turn the page. I hope you have written this. Tax revenue as a percentage of GDP. And fourth, total outstanding liabilities as a GDP. Total outstanding liabilities as a percentage of GDP. Clear? So these four entities form a part of medium-term fiscal policy statement. See, they could also ask you, which among the following projections are what we say are produced in what? Medium-term fiscal policy statement. So they can ask you only one and two, 1, 2, 3, none of the above, all of the above, and so on. See, questions you have to be prepared. No pattern is the pattern for UPSC. I always tell the students, no pattern is the pattern. There is no pattern. Okay, you can analyze and you can make a projection just like we do in the budget. Okay, you can make estimates, but your we say revised estimates would be different and actual estimates would be different. But we need to prepare that. We can't stop our budgeting exercise. We'll do it. Okay, think from the perspective of the budget. Okay. Yeah. Got this? Oh, we did so much. Clear? So students, just fatafat we will do one revision. So we'll just go back 1 second. Okay, so I don't have that remote. Okay, it's fine. So budget, annual financial statement, you all know. Okay. Then we go for budget. So in the budget, this is what? 2025, 2026. Budgetary estimates, revised estimates, actual estimates. I made you understand how they work in the terms of years. We saw this. Okay. Then we went for ahead. Budget, we talked about 3 types of budgeting. Okay. Outcome, zero, gender. And I told you the historicity also. Then we discussed gender budgeting because 2017 mains question GS3 they asked. Patak karke we go ahead. Then gender budgeting we saw how they do it. Okay. Then budget consists of revenue part and budget consists of what? Capital part. And in both we have expenditure and we both have what? Receipts. I hope you got this. And revenue, see receipts, expenditure, tax, non-tax, direct, indirect. In that tax, receipts. Here grants, interest we just took. Grants we took because we used it later. Then we went for what? Revenue budget, capital budget. Okay. Same. That all things we just compartmentalized to make it more better. Deficit, we studied different types of deficit. Revenue deficit, fiscal deficit. Revenue deficit, I told you, more you spend, less you earn. We went for this. Revenue, fiscal expenditure, fiscal receipt, except borrowings. Clear? Then we went for what? This. More the fiscal deficit, more is the requirement of borrowing. Then we went for what? Capital deficit. Okay. Simple. CapEx, I told you, a new fancy term. Effective revenue deficit, grants, the component we are using. Grants which are used for creation of capital assets. So you minus that and make revenue deficit looks less, which is a good sign. Effective capital expenditure, we did it. Got it? Plus the grants which were used for what? Creation of capital assets. Then we went for what? Primary deficit. Fiscal deficit minus net interest payment. We went for that. Then we went for FRBM Act 2003. I told you, read from NCIT what is the basic act. Because that act has been revised 100 times because the government is unable to achieve the goals. We set very audacious goals but unable to achieve. Then in between again they tried, COVID came. Again Act of God came. Then they again put up NK Singh committee, their recommendations, but still we haven't achieved that. But we can't leave idealism. Okay, just because we can't achieve. There must be some morals, some goals in life for which we have to work hard and hardest. That is nothing but for our economics, for budget, there is FRBM Act 2003. And I told you the historicity, Mr. Yashwant Sinha. Budget, annual financial statement. But we have to place, as per this act, in front of the parliament, along with the budget, some core documents. These are the core documents. Macroeconomic framework statement, medium term fiscal policy statement, fiscal policy strategy statement. Yeah, got this? Then I have taken the second one, medium term fiscal policy statement, because it's important. It consists of 4 factors, projections, which are important. Here we went for it. So medium term fiscal policy statement, there are 4 projections and predictions which we have to produce, which consist of revenue deficit as a percentage of GDP. Now you are very smart. We have seen how to calculate revenue deficit. And in the lecture also I told you how to calculate in percentage also. Fiscal deficit as a percentage of GDP. Third is tax revenue. I told you revenue as a percentage of GDP. Tax could be what? Tax, non-tax. Okay, direct, indirect. Then total outstanding liabilities as a percentage of GDP. So this is what I feel you should know as core fundamentals of the budgeting. So how I have planned is that I'm going to compare, or I am going to do a comparative analysis of the budget. So rather than discussing just this year's budget, I'm thinking of bringing that interim budget also, this year budgets also. So for example, agriculture, which they produce in the interim budget, and now what is the qualitative difference, or whether it's an add-on or whether it's what? Entirely change. Okay, last time they were talking about Mahilai, now they meant what? Nari. Okay, that is not thing which I am going to discuss, because they keep on doing that, Mahilai, Nari, Yuva, and youth and all these things they come to. But we are going to see the qualitative aspects of the budget. We will compare it so that you will get a comprehensive understanding of the budget. Because this year I told you, in the prelims, you have to study last year's economic survey, interim budget, okay, along with that this year's budget, this year's economic survey. So the task is big. And last year in the prelims, if you see, they asked very less questions on economics, because the budgeting was what? It was an interim budget. But now they are going to bringing a full-fledged budget. So there is a excess baggage also. So you can expect a lot of questions on the economics. And economics questions, if you see in the prelims, they are not more about factual things. They are more about core and fundamentals. If you can't understand core and fundamentals, you can't attempt. And that's why you end up feeling that economics is so hard, this and that and so on. Are you getting this? So target and focus on core and fundamentals, which we are going to do. And factual things we will keep on covering in the further lectures. I hope you loved it. Thank you for giving your time. Thank you all. Thank you. See you again.